Okay, so have you ever been in a car accident?
Oh, yeah.
Like even a little fender bender. They're the worst.
Yeah.
It's like suddenly you're dealing with insurance and then rental cars, and it's just a whole thing, you know?
It's not fun. No, it's
Yeah,
a huge hassle.
totally. And that's what we're going to dive into today. We're talking about what happens after the accident, that whole process.
Right.
Because, we got that really interesting message from one of our listeners
Yeah.
talking about their experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it got us thinking, like, could there be a better way to handle all of this?
Hmm.
So, listener, if you're out there, this one's for you. You really stumbled onto something that most people don't even realize is a thing. Like, there's a whole industry built around getting people back on the road after they've been in an accident.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
You called it the accident replacement market, which I love, by the way.
It's a good name for it.
But it's way bigger than most people realize, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. This market's covering everything. Your rental car services, towing companies, body shops, you name it. Like in the US alone, this year it was a $36.66 billion market
Wow.
and projections. Almost $39 billion by 2030.
See, I told you, big money.
It's massive.
And you mentioned that the employee at the rental car place, they said something like 75% of their business was from accidents and insurance.
Yeah, their words were easily three-quarters of our business. And when I thought about it, it made sense. Like, if I'm in an accident, my insurance is likely footing the bill, at least for a while.
Exactly. You're not really shopping around for deals when it's not your money, are you?
Nope. And it's not just the US either. You factor in Canada. We're talking a combined market potentially hitting over $53 billion, and that's by 2033.
So not exactly chump change we're talking about here.
Not even close.
This is a massive market, and it's only getting bigger. And your experience, while stressful, it really exposes this pain point. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
This isn't just you. This is something a lot of people go through. And that kind of brings us to the heart of today's deep dive.
Okay.
Could Uber be the answer here?
Oh,
Could they use all their tech, their drivers, everything they've got to, like, disrupt this whole industry?
that is a fascinating question.
Right,
I mean, they wouldn't be starting from zero, you know?
right.
They've already got the app, the drivers, all the technology to connect those two things. It's not hard to imagine them shifting that existing infrastructure to, serve this market.
Yeah, it's like they're halfway there, right?
Totally.
I can already picture it. You're in a fender bender. You're a little shaken up. Instead of dealing with tow trucks and insurance calls and all that, you open your Uber app and boom, you're requesting an accident replacement car.
Mm.
Right to the scene.
Right there in the app you already use. I mean, it's a powerful proposition. And Uber, they'd use all their data to make the whole process as smooth as possible.
Oh, for sure.
Imagine using accident data to figure out demand.
Hmm.
Positioning drivers near, like, accident hotspots.
Wow.
Maybe even personalizing your insurance options based on your driving history.
Okay, see, that last one's a little big brother for me, maybe.
Yeah, I can see that.
But also incredibly efficient. It's like they'd know you'd need a car before you even do.
Yeah.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Because this all sounds good in theory, but could Uber actually pull it off?
Right.
Like, what are the challenges here? This market is complicated. Can they really navigate that?
Yeah, well, for starters, insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We were talking about that before.
Insuring individual rides is one thing, but insuring replacement vehicles for potentially weeks, that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, the policies alone would be a huge task.
Absolutely.
And the insurance companies themselves.
Yeah.
They're not exactly known for being flexible and easy to work with.
Let's just say Uber would probably ruffle some feathers.
For sure. And then on top of all that, you have the logistics of managing a fleet of vehicles, but like on a massive scale.
Right, and this isn't just about little dots moving around on a map,
Yeah.
You need different types of cars, for one.
Right, like sedans, SUVs,
Trucks even.
towing capacity.
Exactly. And then there's maintenance, storage, costs can add up fast.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And we haven't even touched on the human element, which, listener, you were spot on about this in your message.
Yeah.
Someone who's just been in an accident, they might be dealing with, shock, anxiety.
Trauma.
Trauma, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very sensitive situation.
Yeah.
And Uber's known for its tech, right?
Right.
But can they be sensitive too?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because we've seen how Uber has changed transportation.
It's disrupted it even.
For sure.
Yeah.
But can they do that in a market that needs more than just efficiency?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they need empathy. They need a human touch.
Absolutely. And that's something we're going to keep digging into as we go further down this rabbit hole. Can Uber be your new best friend after an accident? We're going to find out.
So we know this accident replacement market is huge. And Uber, they've definitely got the resources to make some waves. But let's, really break down how their current model could work in this whole new world.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. So they're ride sharing, right? That's their bread and butter.
Right.
They've already got this massive network of drivers, basically independent contractors, right?
Right.
Could they incentivize those drivers to opt into accident replacement services too?
That's a good question. Would those drivers need more training, you think?
Uh,
Or stricter background checks than regular ride sharing?
oh, for sure. Those are things Uber would have to figure out. It wouldn't be as easy as just adding a new button to the app.
Right.
They might even need a whole separate driver category
Mm.
with its own requirements and maybe even higher pay, to make it worth it.
Because it's different, right? You're not just picking someone up from the airport.
Yeah.
You're dealing with someone who might have just had a really rough experience.
Exactly. And then there's the car situation. Would Uber want drivers using their own cars for this? Or would they have a whole fleet of accident replacement vehicles?
Ooh, imagine Uber accident response cars,
Right.
clearly marked, all decked out to handle these situations.
Totally. And then that brings up even more logistical questions.
Right.
Where do they store all these cars? Who's making sure they're maintained?
Yeah,
Do they work with existing rental companies or do they try to handle it all themselves?
it gets complicated fast.
Super fast.
And speaking of complicated, let's talk about Uber's data for a sec. We touched on it earlier. How could that play into all of this?
Oh, their data. That could be huge. Imagine them taking accident reports, traffic patterns, even the weather,
Hmm.
and using it all to anticipate demand before it happens. They could have drivers in the right place at the right time, just ready to go.
That's wild. It's almost like they'd know you're going to need a car before you'd even did.
Almost.
Okay, but back to insurance for a sec.
Yeah.
Because that felt like a major roadblock before.
Yeah, that's the big one. Uber would have to completely change how they do insurance now, or they'd need to partner with some big insurance companies willing to cover this whole new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to be easy.
So there's definitely a lot to unpack with this whole Uber accident replacement thing. It's complicated. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
But even with all those question marks, it feels like there's some real potential here.
It's a really interesting idea. It actually reminds me of that whole thing with Uber maybe buying Expedia.
Oh, right. That was big news. Just so everyone's on the same page, some sources have said that Uber might be thinking about buying Expedia,
Yeah.
which is, the travel giant.
Huge company.
Massive.
Yeah.
But how does that connect to, car accidents
Yeah.
and replacement cars?
Well, that's a really interesting part about this whole accident replacement idea. See, buying Expedia, that would be a huge move for Uber.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking potentially billions of dollars.
Billions, yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's mostly about them getting even bigger.
Right, expanding their reach.
Exactly. They're already a big player in transportation, so it's not like a huge leap.
Right, it's more the same, just on a bigger scale.
Right. But this accident replacement idea, this has the potential to be totally different.
Hmm.
We're talking about changing how we think about accidents and insurance altogether. It's a classic Uber, right? They see an industry that's ripe for a shakeup and they just jump in.
And the best part is, this isn't just some business deal happening in a boardroom somewhere. This is something that could affect us all.
Totally. We've all been in accidents, or at least thought about what we'd do if we were.
It makes you think about the future, What if dealing with an accident wasn't this big, stressful ordeal? What if you could just handle everything through an app you already use?
It's a pretty powerful idea.
It is. But it also makes you think, can a company like Uber, which is all about algorithms and efficiency, can they really be there for someone in such a vulnerable moment?
It's a tough question. Can they provide that human touch, that empathy that someone really needs after an accident?
Because you don't want a robot showing up when you're freaking
Yeah.
out after a fender bender, right?
Exactly. So as we wrap things up here, it really comes down to this. Would you trust Uber to be there for you after an accident? No right or wrong answer, but it's something to think about.
It is. And who knows, maybe this is just the tip of the iceberg. What other unexpected services could we see from Uber or any other tech company in the future? I think we're just getting started.
I think you're right.